The hallway went dead silent the moment his hand touched her shoulder, like the air was holding its breath, and in that frozen second, no one realized they were about to witness a moment that would change everything at that school. He laughed, a sharp, careless sound, but just 5 seconds later, that same laugh would twist into something desperate and broken. Before we jump into the story, take a sec to like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment about where you're watching from, because stories like this deserve to be shared, right? Her name was Alea Brooks, and on the surface, she seemed like the kind of girl bullies love to underestimate. Quiet, observant, with dark eyes always focused ahead, hoodie sleeves pulled down, walking the same route every day like routine could keep her safe. Jefferson High had a way of chewing up kids who didn't fit into its loud social scene, and Marcus Reed knew exactly where he stood. 6'2", linebacker build, star of the football team, adored by teachers who saw his grin but not his temper, feared by students who learned early that laughing along was safer than standing up. For weeks, he'd been pushing Aaliyah's buttons, bumping her shoulder in the hallway, mocking her braids, whispering just loud enough for her to hear but quiet enough to dodge trouble. She never reacted, never gave him the satisfaction. That silence bugged him more than any insult ever could. On that Friday afternoon, with the bell about to ring and the halls packed, Marcus decided silence wasn't enough anymore. He stepped into her path, blocking her like a wall, and when she tried to sidestep him, he grabbed her arm not hard at first, just enough to say he could. Alia stopped. She didn't scream or cry. She slowly lifted her eyes to his, and something in that look made a few nearby students shift uncomfortably, like they were too close to a cliff. "Let go," she said, calm but low, her voice carrying weight without being loud. Marcus smirked, tightening his grip, feeling powerful with an audience. "Or what?" he said, leaning closer, his friends laughing behind him. What Marcus didn't know was that Aaliyah's calm wasn't fear. It was control. 5 seconds can stretch into eternity when adrenaline hits, and in those seconds, Aaliyah's mind didn't race. It focused. She thought of her dad's voice in the garage at night, teaching her discipline, not aggression. She thought of her mom's warnings about keeping her head high in a world that watches black girls more closely than anyone else. And she thought of the promise she'd made to herself after the last time someone crossed a line and she felt small. Marcus felt it before he understood it, the sudden shift in her body, the way her center of gravity dropped, the way her arm rotated just enough to break his hold. The hallway exploded into noise as Alia moved. She twisted free, stepped in close where his size meant nothing, and with practiced speed, she swept his legs and drove him to the floor. The sound of his body hitting the tile cracked through the crowd like a dropped plate. Gasps, screams, someone yelling her name. Marcus didn't laugh now. He wheezed, stunned more than hurt, eyes wide as he realized he was staring up at the ceiling with Aliyah standing over him. She didn't hit him again. She didn't need to. She knelt, her knee pressing into his chest just enough to pin him, her hand gripping his wrist and bending it back in a way that made his bravado drain out of him. "I said let go," she repeated, her voice steady, almost gentle. That's when the begging started. It wasn't loud at first, just a frantic, breathless whisper. Wait, I'm sorry, he stammered, panic flooding his face as the reality of the situation sank in. Dozens of phones recording everything. 5 seconds earlier, he'd been the king of this hallway. Now he was just a boy on the floor, realizing too late he'd messed with the wrong person. Alia released him the moment a teacher shouted her name from down the hall. She stood up, stepped back, hands open, giving no one a reason to paint her as the aggressor. Marcus scrambled to his feet, humiliated, clutching his wrist, eyes darting around as whispers followed him like shadows. The vice principal arrived, voices overlapping, accusations flying, but the story was already written in 100 video clips. Later, in the office, Marcus tried to play it off. Said it was a joke, said she overreacted, but his voice shook and his story changed every time he told it. Alia sat quietly, answering questions directly, her hands folded, her posture straight. When they called her dad, he arrived in a pressed jacket, eyes calm but sharp, and when he heard what happened, he didn't raise his voice. He simply asked to see the footage. The room watched in silence as the video played, as Marcus's hand closed around Aaliyah's arm, as her warning went ignored, as the tables turned, policies were cited. Consequences discussed. Marcus was suspended, removed from the team pending review, his reputation cracked wide open in a single afternoon. But the real shift happened in the days that followed. Students who had watched in silence before started speaking up. Alia found notes in her locker from girls who said they felt braver because of her, from boys who admitted they'd been afraid too. Teachers looked at her differently, not with suspicion, but with respect. Marcus avoided the halls he used to dominate, his laughter gone, his shoulders hunched, learning the hard way that power taken is fragile and respect earned is everything. Alea kept walking the same route every day, hoodie sleeves still pulled down, but her steps were lighter now, her silence no longer mistaken for weakness. She hadn't wanted to be a symbol, hadn't planned to teach anyone a lesson, but sometimes the world forces moments on you, and what you do in 5 seconds can change how people see you forever. That day at Jefferson High wasn't about revenge or violence. It was about a line being drawn, about a young black girl refusing to be small in a space that expected her to shrink, and about a bully learning too late that some hands should never be raised and some people should never be underestimated.